She's not happy. She is happy.
Hey, what's up guys? Rock Solid Rig here. We are doing another wrenching video. I know, hooray! Believe me, we're tired of wrenching too. We'd much rather be on the trails. You can hear Corey over there banging around on stuff right now. We're getting the tires, basically we're tearing everything apart. That way we can do some ball joint deletes. Ball joints that came on the UD44, a lot of people tell you that they're absolute trash. I tend to agree. We willed pretty hard for a year on these maybe, and they're already starting to get like pretty bad. Passenger side is really bad. So before I show you everything that we're going to do, first, if you haven't already, make sure you click like, share, subscribe, leave us a comment, tell us what you got going on, tell us where you're headed out to go off-road next. Maybe we'll meet you guys out on the trail or something once we're finally ready to get out there. All right, so we had to make the decision as to exactly what we were going to go with to replace the bad ball joints. I had considered going with the Dynatrac rebuildable ball joints. Instead, I ended up going with the American Iron Off-Road ball joint deletes. The reason that I decided to go with those, I talked to Josh over at American Iron. I talked to a couple guys that have had these installed. And even for a daily driver, they say they don't really have any issues. Andrew Bailey, who owns a shop, has had the prototype unit that Josh initially came out with. They put those into a JK, and they now have like 30,000 something miles on them. And they haven't had any issues whatsoever. There's no looseness or anything like that. Like the Dynatrac, they are rebuildable. There's a spherical bearing that goes down inside these. The bearings are like 25 bucks a piece. So you can replace all four of those bearings for $100 basically. And you do want to make sure that you replace the lock nuts as well whenever you take them off, because they lose strength. I think Josh said it's like 25%. So anytime that you take the lock nut off, you do want to replace those. So whenever you rebuild them with the new bearing, you also want to replace the lock nut as well. So there's an upper and a lower. So you can see the upper is knurled, similar to some of the knurled ball joints. So if you guys have a knurled ball joint already in your knuckle, you can still replace it with these, and it's not going to have any slop or not going to have any play or anything like that. Josh also just recently announced that he's going to be doing warranty for these, and I believe he said that it's going to be a 2-year, $30,000 warranty. There are no ball joints out there that I know of that have a warranty. So I really like the fact that he's going to warranty his product. He said that these things are tough, and he wants me to just absolutely beat the hell out of them on the trail. As you guys seen, we kind of do that. I don't know if you know this or not, but I rolled my... So yeah, enough talking about these. Let's go see what Corey's doing, and we'll get these installed. So there are a ton of other videos out there that you can go and watch so far as how to do the ball joints. Basically, you need to tear everything down. Get to the point to where you've just got the tie rod, the drag link off, pull out your axle shaft. You obviously have to take off your caliper and your rotor, all that fun stuff. Basically just get it down to where it is the axle with a knuckle. Pull your knuckle off, and then we're going to press the old ball joints out, and then we'll be able to press the new ball joint deletes in.
This is what a bad ball joint looks like. And this is what trashing your tube looks like.
What does a good ball joint look like?
How tight is the top?
There you go.
We already did the other side, but we just wanted to make sure exactly what we were doing before we videoed on this side.
Still don't know exactly what we're doing.
We are total professionals here. Can I see the hammer out there?
Check that out.
This one just pull right out.
It just fell right out.
Well, I don't know. That might not bode well. I don't really like how that hangs on the ram there, but
Oh, much shorter. Hey, look, that side's clean.
nice. The other side had a lot of dirt and gunk and nastiness in it. No chips, no twists.
Pretty.
It looks clean. Unlike our rear shafts, which I have twisted multiple times.
Oh, that's right, floppy.
You're very floppy.
Sometimes.
Don't talk about my cotter pins like that. We got the little tool on the bottom pushing against the ball joint so that we can pop it loose.
Are these cups standard sized cups that come in the...
Yeah, these are just the Spicer ball joints that came in the Ultimate Dana 44 axle.
Yeah, but these cups. This
Oh
one,
yeah, the cups.
This
This
one's
one
like
down here
old as
came from
Jesus.
Grandpa Joe's tool set. We don't know. It's with an older ball joint press. But these, it's just, this is hollow all the way through. And then there are a couple different ends that you can have. Basically, it's just a universal tool. There it goes. Now you can see this is pushing up inside the knuckle. It's pushing the ball joint out.
What is he using on top of it?
He's just used the torque wrench so that he could get a lot more leverage on it
Basically
because
a
it's
breaker
longer.
bar and
Yeah.
a 7/8 socket.
You could use any kind of breaker bar or just anything to give yourself more leverage, and then a socket to fit whatever your tool size is.
I think it's universal.
7/8. You think they're all 7/8? Now we take this off, and the ball joint pops out. And this upper ball joint's the same as on the other side. There's no play in it or anything. It's still solid. The reason for that is because on the ball joints, all of your force is applied on the bottom ball joint. They do make some ball joints that share the load the way they're designed. I don't know quite how that happens, but for most people, it's the bottom ball joint that ends up being the one that goes bad, and the top one is usually still good. So now we're gonna build this up so we can pop this lower ball joint out. So, and the top ball joint presses out to the top. The lower ball joint presses out to the bottom.
This is not what they're supposed to look like.
So yeah, that is way too much play. I mean, you can see there's still grease inside there, but this is really rough. You can feel that it's worn some grooves into it. It definitely shouldn't be like this. We had quite a bit of play. Whenever you would take a pry bar, put it under the tire, you could pull up on the tire and you could actually see the ball joint moving inside there. It's hard to get any play with your hand, but whenever you've got all the weight and everything on there, it's definitely a lot easier to tell. For the top ball joint delete, There are two different ones. This one you can see it's got quite a bit of texture to it. It's the knurling whatnot. It's going to go in, like I said, from the top. It's going to press in, and it has the little lip here that basically you want that lip to sit flush all the way around. So what ends up having to happen is it doesn't quite sit down in perfectly. Obviously you want it to be a tight fit. You can see it kind of swivels back and forth a little bit. So you want to just kind of start it, and then you'll have to apply pressure around the edges to where you can get it all straight in. And then once you've got it straight in, then you can just torque down on it and get it to where it'll sit flush. You just don't want to get it too far one way or the other, otherwise you'll never get it straightened out. And the bottom of this cup, it's pretty sharp, and it'll start eating into one side of the knuckle or the other if you don't have it going down straight in there. So now for the top one, there is one O-ring and then one shim or washer that goes on there. So we'll go ahead and pop that down in there, put that shim on top, and then we'll be able to press the bottom ball joint delete. Then we'll go through and show you guys putting in the bolts. Alright, so here's the bottom one. You can see it does not have all the texturing on it like the upper one did, but it does have, you can see a couple little rings here. This bottom lip is the one where it's going to rest up against on the knuckle. So we press it in all the way to this point. But it's going to come in from the bottom of the knuckle to the top. You can see there's already one O-ring down in there. There ends up being another O-ring that gets put in. And then there's a shim that's beveled to fit here. And then the bolt goes into it. And there's actually a nut on top and the bottom. This is the top. It's going to be in here like this. You can see there's another O-ring there. Here's the beveled shim that sits inside this beveled area. And then you can see how this is beveled as well. It's or a tapered bolt, should I say. One of the things you do need to look for whenever you install these, we'll show you a little bit closer once we get it done. But with this taper here, you actually will end up with a gap between the knuckle and the bottom of the cup here. That gap is supposed to be there. So that's something that if you see that, don't panic and think that you did something wrong, because there is in fact supposed to be a gap. It is not supposed to close all the way up tight. So it's going in a little bit crooked. So we're going to back off, reposition everything, see if we can get this straightened out.
It's going in a lot of bit crooked. We had the O-ring in there before we started any more work. The O-ring and the washer to seal that up and make sure that no dirt or any debris got in there. Now that we have everything, both of the cups installed, we'll go ahead and put the top bolt in. I'm just putting it there so I don't lose it. And then you take the top nut off the beveled washer and the O-ring, slide the bottom bolt in from the bottom, set the O-ring down in there, once it's seated, put the beveled washer down and start the lock nut without cross threading it.
Alright, so now both of the tapered bolts are in. We will pull the nuts off of the bottom and then get the knuckle put on there, and then we'll take you through the torque process, how to get this all tightened down, get it finished up. can see there is a gap there on the top and on the bottom. What ends up happening is whenever you have your ball joints on, the rubber boot that's on there, you don't really see that there is somewhat of a gap just because of the rubber boot that's there. Because you don't smash that boot down all the way on the ball joint, but you do not want the knuckle butted all the way up against that cup. It has to have a little bit of a gap there. That's perfectly normal. We talked to Josh whenever we did the other side. He said that's just, it is by design. That is exactly how it is. Like I said, because of the gap that's normally there with that rubber boot. So it's pretty easy to do these. It's not anything that's going to be a total disaster. You can get a ball joint press. You can rent those at AutoZone or O'Reilly or whatever if you don't have one. You can pick one up at Harbor Freight. Corey already had 2 of them. I don't know where he stole them from, but he had them laying around his garage. So we're going to go ahead and get this axle shaft put back in, get the hub bearing bolted on, get the caliper and the rotor put back on. Then we're going to throw wheels on, and it will be back on the ground, and we'll show you guys once it's sitting on the ground.
Next time on Rock Solid Rig.
Duggan, what would you say you're doing right now?
Laying on the dirty ground.
We're filmitating things.
We are so excited to be back out on the trails. We can't wait to see you guys. And of course, until next time, just keep on jeeping.